Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. On behalf of Navigos Church, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you to the VIP seminar, Women Who Make the Difference. Today, thank you for joining with us. Thank you so much. We appreciate you taking up your busy schedules to be here with us today. So we hope that you will find the seminar fruitful and engaging. And as you know that the VIP seminars is Navigos Church annual special event that exclusively for our key clients and our special business partner. And this year, the seminar as discussing the trends, how that gender diversity create the biggest impact to your business, and how to leverage gender diversity and empower women leaders as your competitive advantage. But before I dig into the topic, let me introduce to you our valuable speakers at our seminar today. Please put your hands together to welcome Mr. Scott Pure, Head of Global Accounts, LinkedIn, APAC, and Japan. Please let me introduce to you Ms. Nguyễn Thiên Thanh, the CEO of E.Town, Vietnam. We also have here today Ms. Nguyễn Phương Mai, Managing Director of Navigos Church. We are happy to introduce to you one more guest that joins our seminar today, Ms. Phạm Thị Hoài Linh, Human Resources Director of Navigos Group. And yes, last but not least, the most important participants today, please let me welcome more than 100 of CEOs, HR directors, managers who are Navigos Church key clients and business partners. Once again, thank you so much for your participation and your support as always. And now, to kick off the seminar, I'm honored to invite on stage Ms. Nguyễn Phương Mai, Managing Director of Navigos Church, to deliver her opening remark. Please give her a warm welcome.
So, ladies and gentlemen, once again, please allow me to represent Navigos Church to give you the warmest welcome and appreciation for your time, your participation, and your support to Navigos Church over the years. Thank you so much for joining us in this very beautiful morning for this meaningful event. Well, it has been 16 years that Navigos Group Vietnam has the privilege to support you, the business partners and companies in Vietnam, with the recruitment solutions. So with our two brands, Vietnam Works and Navigos Search, we do believe that we have been enforced and fostered the strong partnerships over these 16 years. Now, the journey is not easy at all, right? Because the talent market in Vietnam has become tougher and tougher year after year. However, we have been made it until the stage today is also because we have your support, your partnership. And the partnership with the companies, with the business partners, is really a big, valuable asset to us. And we treasure our relationship. And one of the commitments that we have made, beside the continuous improvement of our quality service to you, is to provide more and more market insight, labor market updates, with the hopes that the HR strategic partners, the CEO, the decision makers can actually put in place the HR strategies that can help you nurture, attract, and grow up your talent pools. So today's event is one of our efforts to actually bring in the table discussing points for all of us to think about one of the most burning questions that today's management in most of the international companies are really, really interested in gender diversity. How gender diversity can be implemented in the companies? What could be the barriers? How can women go up to the top management levels? All of those questions could be very interesting for us to find out and to discuss during this event. And I would like to thank our very special guest speakers, Scott and chị Thiên Thanh, for spending the time and support us with this event and will bring to our seminar the great insight from their own experience. So without any further delay, I would like to hand over the stage to our first speakers, Mr. Scott Bute, to share with us the story from LinkedIn, the famous name that I think that all of us here are very, very well aware of, right? So I hope that you would enjoy the event, and we would have more and more discussion during the Q&A session afterwards. So, Scott, the stage is yours. Thank you so much.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Can you all hear me loud and clear? Perfect. Thank you very much, Mai. Okay. So yeah, I feel very privileged to be here today. Privileged as the token male here talking about gender diversity. But I'm really happy to be in Vietnam and here in Ho Chi Minh. Thank you for the introduction, Mai. My name's Scott Pugh. I work at LinkedIn. I've been at LinkedIn for just over 6 years now. And I run our global accounts business across the whole of the Asia-Pacific region, which, as we all know, is a very diverse group of countries. And what I really wanted to do today was share my personal story, but also the story of the journey that LinkedIn has been through over the last few years around diversity, inclusion, and belonging, and really with a focus on gender diversity, because that's what we're all here to speak about. So you'll see here, there's me and my good lady wife. That's my wife, Indra. We met in Sydney about 15, 16 years ago now. I was a lowly backpacker just exploring Australia. She was a high-flying exec within the cosmetic industry. And we've been very lucky to have lived across the world. We lived in Sydney, in London, in Hong Kong, and now Singapore. And actually, much of that journey has been around me supporting my wife on her career journey. She now runs the Asia-Pacific region for one of the prominent cosmetic organizations in the world. And I've been able to learn through her experiences about the challenges for women to sort of breach the gap to become a senior executive. And I think for all of you aspiring females to become senior executives, it's very important to have both allies at work, but also allies at home that's going to be able to support you on your journey and support and for your people in your organization. There's my young son, Luca. He's just turned 4 years old. That's us at Hong Kong Disneyland. My son is obsessed with princesses. I think he watched Frozen when he was like 1 or 2 and saw the strong female that was Elsa, and he's been absolutely obsessed ever since. We queued for about 1 hour to have that photo with Sophia at Hong Kong Disneyland. And there you'll see him dressed as Anna with his friend Imogen. Do you know what? I was taking these photos so that when he was 21 years old, I could share them to embarrass him. But I'm quite surprised I'm sharing them with you here today. But the reason I'm sharing them with you is because, for me, diversity and inclusion is nothing without belonging. And what that means to me at home is allowing my family to be who they want to be, to allowing them to bring their true self, and not trying to force people into pigeonholes. And really that when I think about my team at work, so as I mentioned, I manage the Asia Pacific region. We cover everything from Japan to Australia to India, Hong Kong, Singapore. And I find it's really important that we represent the cultures, the markets that we operate in. And I really strive to be able to create a diverse workforce within my team so that we can have people from different backgrounds, from different ethnicities, to bring different thoughts and ideas. It's really, really critical to enable the success of our team. So thankfully, a few of you know about LinkedIn. It sounded like there was a bit of reaction that you're aware of us, but just to give you a very quick abridged version, the mission of LinkedIn is about connecting the world's professionals to make them more productive and successful. So this very much been focused on white-collar knowledge workers, professionals, and helping them be better at what they do. Now, the vision of LinkedIn, which we consider our true north, what we aspire to be able to achieve, is around creating economic opportunity for every member of the global workforce. So whereby the total workforce is around 3 billion globally. So we really, really want to help everyone to be able to be better at what they do. And we manifest that in what we call the economic graph. So these are the key pillars of information that we look to gather so that we can actually help global economies to be able to analyze how we can grow, how different countries can develop their industries, develop their people. And we look at 6 key metrics around members. We've got around 560 million globally, almost 2 million members here in Vietnam. We've got over 20 million companies that those members work for, around 15 million jobs that those companies are looking to hire for, 50,000 different skills that the people have. And we know that the skills people have today are not the skills that are going to be they're going to require for the jobs of tomorrow. So with that, we also have a lot of institutions that help people gain those skills, and we have over 60,000 different schools and educational facilities. And then lastly, it's about the knowledge that all you people here share to be able to help each other be better at what you do. So around 11 million updates on a daily basis. So what I want to do today is really tell you the story of the journey that LinkedIn have been on around diversity and inclusion. This is a post from Mike Gampson, who is our global head of solutions. He's our second in command at LinkedIn. And back in 2014, he came to the Hong Kong office. I was the first person in the Hong Kong office, and he and I had a meeting where he shared a story about had a meeting in San Francisco with his executive team. And someone came up to him and said, like, do you realize that there's only like one female in our entire executive team? And he had like a epiphany and a light bulb moment where he realized that he'd been with LinkedIn for 6 or so years, but what he'd done is he'd hired people all around him that were exactly like him. Now, in a startup environment, that's often the case that you will invite people that you know into the business or within the networks that you have. But he had come to realize that actually his entire executive team was made up of clones, made up of obviously very bright people, very smart, very proficient professionals, but the diversity of thought and the diversity of background, ethnicity, gender was not there. And he vowed at that point in 2014 that it had to change. And at that point, 6% of our executive leadership team were female. And so that really started the journey. And what I'd like to do is just to sort of take it, like that develop the strategy that Mike put in place around 3 key pillars. So around hiring and growing a diverse talent force. So not just bringing diverse talent into the business, but allowing them to flourish. And investing and be the place where that talent is allowed to thrive. And then bringing a culture to inspire a community of belonging within tech. So around hiring the best people, investing in them within the business where they thrive, and then building a culture of belonging. So when we talk about diversity inclusion, I like to use the Oxford English Dictionary version. We look at diversity, and the definition is the quality of state of having many different forms, types, and ideas, etc. And that can manifest itself in many ways. You're all from very different industries, whether it be manufacturing, engineering, sales and marketing, advertising, tech, and the way that diversity is very different for each and every one of your organizations. And inclusion is the action or state of being included or of being within a group or structure. Now, diversity and inclusion is necessary, but it's not sufficient. And when we looked at it as an organization, we really thought that belonging was the key part to linking that. And belonging is about being authentic, is about bringing your true self to work, feeling like you matter, and being an essential part of your team. And that is where we came up with the acronym DIBS. And the best way to describe this in an analogy is diversity is being invited to the party. Inclusion is about being asked to dance, but belonging is having your favorite song being played. And really, for LinkedIn, this is about developing a team of superheroes that work together to achieve our common goal, to achieve our mission and our vision. And so if engagement is the outcome, is the thing that we'll measure, and diversity and inclusion is the foundation, then that sense of belonging is the thing that will bring it all together. Now, to give you a bit of an idea about some of our strategies in Asia Pacific, really one of our, when it comes to belonging, there's a few key things that we do to try and enable employees to have that sense of belonging. And it really starts with when they join the organization. We will do things like, they'll have a welcome pack at their desk. They'll have helium balloons on their desk, so everyone knows there's a new starter there. I had a colleague start recently, and I threw a party around our desk where we made cocktails and made them feel welcome to the organization. We're very lucky to have free lunch every day, but this creates an environment where everyone can sit down together and share different views, different opinions, and different backgrounds. Every leader within our organization goes through what we call manage in training, where it's a really structured training we believe that every employee deserves to have a great manager. And we believe that every manager needs to lead with compassion. And so that's really drummed into every one of our leaders. We make it really important to listen to our employees and include their voices. And we empower our employees to be able to lead on projects. And I'll talk about that within the employee resource groups that we have set up. We also solicit input. We get feedback from every one of our employees about what it's like to work for our organization, so we can help them and improve our organization. I heard a mobile phone go off there as well. We have a even though we're a technology company, in meetings we have a no technology policy, so where we can be present and really connect with our colleagues. And I'm here today sharing stories, but we love hearing the stories of all of our employees and sharing those across both the LinkedIn platform and internally. But there's much more that we do about to create that sense of belonging for our employees. So some of the key strategies that we do within the Asia Pacific region, we put every one of our employees through unconscious bias training, allowing people to understand their potential prejudices and to be able to navigate around them. And that's both from hiring people into the business, but then also developing their teams. We develop employee resource groups to help underrepresented or people within our organization, and we partner with external organizations on these initiatives. So here are some of our employee resource groups we set up. We have Enable In, which is to help disabled people within the organization to have a voice. We help for parents at LinkedIn, which helps both mothers and fathers. Out to In, which supports people within the LGBT plus community. And probably the most critical and the one I want to focus on today, which is our Women at LinkedIn, which encourages women to be their best selves and really for a goal to be able to increase our women in leadership, which is Mike Gampson's key priority for the entire business. It's one of his top 3 key priorities. And so some of the partnerships we have, we run at Connecting Women in Technology, and we work with Google, Facebook, a lot of the banks, a lot of the other tech organizations, and this is run by Women at LinkedIn, but we run many events to bring all of these groups together to elevate the women coming into the STEM industry, but also to help an educational piece as well. And one that I'm very passionate about, as I mentioned the story about my wife and I about male allies, and He for She is a fantastic organization around creating a male ally mentorship program. And here are some of the specific groups and initiatives that we have for gender diversity in Asia Pacific. I mentioned Women in Tech. Women at LinkedIn, we have someone in every country that will be a representative of a Women at LinkedIn. And one that I'm really passionate about is about developing leaders, a division called Empower In. And I was part of the organizing committee of this. And this is a 6-month program for our individual contributors and early career managers. And what we do within this program is we bring people together to be able to learn each other's stories. We bring our senior female executives in to be able to coach and mentor our aspiring leaders. We run training sessions, a session called Own the Room, which is about being able to present in a really in a strong way. And this is, as I say, this is a 6-month program. I had 2 of my team members attend this program, both of whom are interviewing for leadership roles in the organization now. Whereas prior to this program, they wouldn't have had the confidence or felt comfortable about putting their hat in the ring, about putting their hand up for these roles. So the word Empower In really rings true for this program. So you can't fix what you can't measure, and for us, it's really important for us to be able to measure how we're achieving success within this area. We actually at LinkedIn publish our diversity data. So this is the report from 2017. You'll see here that focusing on the gender diversity as a global business, we have around 11,000 employees, 42% of which are female. Within our non-tech organization, so this is our sales, marketing, operations, it's actually, we're above parity on for having women in the organization. Tech is an area that we do struggle. And I think, as I mentioned around STEM, and we'll talk about it a little bit in the other talks later, this is a challenge for all organizations within the tech industry. And getting women interested in the engineering, science, and technology is a really big challenge. This has grown, however. We were at 20% last year, so we are increasing our females in tech. And then this is probably the most critical. This is the one that we're really, really looking at with a laser-like focus. We currently have 38% of our leaders that are female, which is not where we want to be. We want to be at parity. But considering where we came from 3 years ago, we were at 25%. So we really have made a true leap forward in terms of having more women leading our businesses across the world. And lastly on the measure, every 6 months we run what we call the Employee Voice Survey. So this is a survey of all 11,000 of our employees to really understand what their experience is like working at LinkedIn. And engagement is one of our key metrics. And we ask many questions around people's sense of belonging with an organization. And actually we've seen this grow from 80% just 2 years ago to 91% now. And that's an NPS score of 91, which even for the tech industry is off the charts. So just back to, before I go into this quote, just back to Mike Gampson. So as I said, he had 6% of his executive leadership team that were female back in 2014. That number's actually grown to 30% now. So we're definitely making strides forward. And to quote Martin Luther King, like, we're all at different stages of this journey, but if you can't fly, then you run. If you can't run, then you walk. If you can't walk, then you crawl. But you must keep moving forward. And for us, this is a journey. We still haven't achieved the parity that we're looking for, but we're getting close. And so what I'd like you to sort of take away from my talk today, 5 key points. I think firstly, it's important to understand where you are at the moment, to look at the data, understand where you are in terms of your gender diversity, but also across many areas, ethnicity, age, and to understand what the current state is. And then when you decide on a strategy and what areas you're going to focus on, it's really important to engage and encourage your employees to own the transformation, to own the initiatives that you put in place. Our employee resources group, so for our women at LinkedIn for Asia Pacific, is run by one of our salespeople. She's a key account manager based in Singapore. It's not our senior executives that run these. This is owned by our employees that have skin in the game, that really want to make a difference. But having said that, it's really important to get executive buy-in. Without Mike Gampson, without our CEO, Jeff Weiner, wanting this to change, wanting it to improve, it wouldn't. So it's absolutely critical that your senior executives are on board here and are looking to drive this forward. Partnering with the organizations is also critical. Navigos here in Vietnam is one of our key partners in the region, and being able to align with someone to help you with that talent pool, to help you bring the right people into your business to address these challenges is key. And then partnering with external organizations such as He for She to help put on events, to help work on these initiatives, to help that sense of belonging within your organization. And lastly, you can't fix what you can't measure. Publishing your diversity data may be a stretch too far, but it's still critical for you to be able to do it internally. Running an employee voice survey, for me, should be mandatory. You can't just go by what people are saying to your senior execs. You need to have an anonymous survey to get and elicit that feedback from your employees, to get a real, true pulse of what's happening within your organization. So that's it for me. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. We will be having a panel later if you want to engage in that. But yeah, if not any questions, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So we will have the Q&A section at the end of the program. Once again, thank you, Mr. Piu, for your informative presentation. And thank you for letting us know how important diversity, inclusion, and belongings are. And the next presentation will be based on Navigos' recent survey, Women in Leadership. And we will discuss about the key findings on the portraits of women in leadership in Vietnam, as well as the challenges that they are facing. So please, together with me, welcome on stage our next speaker, Ms. Nguyễn Phương Mai, Managing Director of Navigos Church.
right, so here I am again. Okay, don't look at the photo, it's so too beautiful. All right, so it could be my honor to share with you the findings from the report that we have conducted during the in March and April. And I will explain the title of my presentation later because it can be confusing to some of the people, or at least that is the feedback that I received from my team. But here, just a snapshot about the report. So we ran this report right after we had the discussion with LinkedIn. Yeah, because earlier this year, Navigos Search entered into a partnership agreement with LinkedIn with the purpose of improving our qualities and support you better in fighting the talents in Vietnam and in the region. So one of the initiatives including in the partnership program is that LinkedIn will support us with an event, sending the attractive speakers from LinkedIn. And we talk about what would be the topics that LinkedIn would like to share to Vietnamese audience. Then we found that, okay, LinkedIn just had the survey, right, on gender diversity. Well, in Navigos Search, it's not really a big problem for us in terms of gender diversity because I don't know this by chance or not, but we have a big team of women in Navigos Search. So this is the report, the survey that we would love to hear more from the Vietnamese companies, the international companies that are operating in Vietnam. We sent out our survey to the candidates and companies in the database held by Navigos Group, in both Vietnam Works and Navigos Search. And we received over 1,000 responses. And 80% of the respondents were female. And they, in terms of seniorities, then actually you can see that around 90% of the respondents are at the manager level and above. So we check and we ask our respondents about their opinions, about their practice in the companies around gender diversity. And today, I would like to pick one part of this report just to share with you on the narrower topics, that is the women leadership. Actually, women in the top leader levels. But first of all, what would be the status of the diversity, the gender diversity in Vietnam? When we ask our respondents and evaluate their opinions about the impact of having gender diversities in their companies, and here is the answer. With gender diversity, obviously they can see that, our respondents can see that there are a lot of benefits by, having gender diversity in place. First and foremost, with the companies that has the more like balanced genders or have the diversified team, they think that they can solve problems more effectively. They have the abilities to deal and to work with the diversified group of clients, and especially with gender diversity, especially for the HR team, they feel that it would be easier for them to attract and retain people, to retain talents from their company. And of course, with gender diversity, the company's culture can be enhanced and developed much more effectively. So these would be the key findings that we got from the opinions from our respondents. Now, we also want to understand why women are working so hard in Vietnam to get promotion, to move up. And from the comments from our clients, especially the people outside of Vietnam, their observation is always like, okay, how come Vietnamese women are working so hard Sorry, the men's in the room. But the fact is that the women in Vietnam, they are really want to move up and work their way up. And when we ask our respondents, then we find that passion and the desire to improve themselves are the two key drivers for the women in Vietnam to try to work and to earn the higher positions in the organizations. Okay? Not really money or fame, whatever, but the passion to the job and the desire for self-improvement. So that would be the two interesting points that we can consider when we are putting in place the programs that support the women to grow in your company. Well, this is the reality. Although we all know that gender diversity can help a lot with the business, you know, and also like Scott mentioned, the other companies around the world already realized the importance of this strategy. Here in Vietnam, we still have quite low number of females in the top leadership level. 68% of our respondents shares that, you know, in their companies, at the positions at the middle and senior level in their companies, they still have below 40% are female. You know. In some of the other industries like IT or manufacturing, this number would be even lower. Okay? And to help us understand more about this and find out what would be the key strategy for us to enable women to grow up further, we would like to go through a few kind of analysis of what would be the women in leadership positions look like, right? First, we can see that they are actually present in most of the C-level, and especially in HR or finance. They are, you know, the number of women leaders are higher. Just very few on the managing director positions or CEO positions, yeah. And we also see that it's by chance or the social perception is that there are certain job functions that meant to be just for women. Yeah. So we have more people, more ladies in the management, top management level at HR and accounting, but we still have a lot of other functions with only 10%, you know, with the, of the women's in keeping on the leadership role. And one interesting point that we have found from the reports is that you can see that these are the strengths of the female leaders in the companies that our respondents share. And here the blue bars show the areas for improvements, or we can call that weakness. But we can see here, women seems to be, you know, to be evaluated that they are very good in strategy execution, you know, implementing the strategy, very good. But strategy development or creating the strategy seems to be still an areas for women to improve if they want to pursue the top leadership role. And this is also the reality in Vietnam. If you want to attract the talented, the female talents, okay, please pay attention to allow them to contribute, allow them to use their skills, okay, and they can, you know, stay in the companies and contribute more, much more effectively. Now, if with all of this, the portrait of the female leadership, we also came down to see how we can enable women in Vietnam to grow up to the leadership positions. This is, again, the status in Vietnam now. only 13% of our respondents share that their companies do have the plans to develop female into the higher positions, okay? And only 8% share that, you know, the plan to grow up female leaders is in the top top priorities of their strategy. So meaning that the companies in Vietnam still do not quite pay attention on the formal way of developing women leadership. And when we think about, you know, what would be the barriers, what stop women from growing up and getting further, we also came across the phenomenon that we call that the glass ceiling, you know, because, you know, I believe that not any companies put in place any discrimination policies or strategy to stop women to grow up into the top leadership level. However, women in Vietnam still face a lot of the unconscious bias that we can have a look deeper here. First, in our perception, we don't think that STEM is suitable for women, okay? Because we can say that, you know, even 87% of our respondents share that STEM is not suitable for ladies. You know, although we do have very significant lady GM, GD in the factories or in the ICT companies. Right? Another thing, women are meant to be for mainly on professional services, industry or financial services, you know. And one thing is that even among this group of industries, we can see that is the number of women in the top management position is still quite low. Here I think that you all have seen and worked with the auditing firms, right? How many female partners do you see in the big four firms? Okay. And even, you know, in our companies, we are very proud that we have a lot of females sitting in the management team. But when I joined the board meeting, the BOD meeting with our bosses in Japan, I feel quite lonely because I'm the only one. I'm the only lady sitting in the room with all of the males around me. And when I come to the country managers meetings, you know, for our group network in Asia Pacific, myself and my colleagues in Thailand, the country manager in Thailand, always are the two females in the room full of male. And we are in professional service industry, right? So that means that we still have a lot of things to do. Like Scott said, you know, we are still in the progress of making this happen. We have also faced the glass ceiling, you know, in the perception of the men and women in terms of, you know, what would be the, whether or not ladies can be in the leaders' positions or take more time to become a leaders. And then also, women are normally, and especially in Vietnam, attached with the ideas of family and society. And always, you know, we are kind of always live with the sentence that men makes house, women make home. Although I think that nowadays this house and homes actually the task of both genders, not just men or female. And we have two questions to our respondents, you know, and quite interesting to find to see the perception at the workplace from both genders. Don't forget that we have male participating in our survey as well, right? So when we asked about, you know, how they feel about the competition between the two genders in the companies in their current companies, right? So only 8% of the female respondents said that they feel the competition in the workplace, whereas we have 14% of male respondents say that they feel that competition. What does that mean? That means that men are actually feeling more about the needs of competing with female in the workplace. Sorry, I just a little bit over-exaggerate, over-elaborate that, but this is the information that we get from the report. And one more thing is about the promotion opportunities. So we have 44% of male respondents share that they feel that the promotion opportunities are actually equal, not very, they feel that there is certain difference in terms of, the opportunities for male and female in promotion. But we have 52% of female respondents say yes. They feel that there is certain so-called discrimination or unfair opportunities in promotion and career development. So that is the perception from the two genders at the companies. And the reality is that only 4% of the companies participating in our survey do have the training policies to help women in leadership roles. And also one more thing that we found out, another areas of the glass ceiling that we are facing nowadays is that, again, women are meant to be for the family, okay? And we have here still 56% of the respondents agree that men has more freedom than women because women have so many duties and responsibilities with their families. Okay. And I think that you may all get used to the situation where we meet with some senior leaders, female leaders, and the first question in Vietnam that people often ask is about the family and the curiosities on how she can manage to be the leaders and also have the good families at the same time. So that would be the reflection of the social perception on the role of the female, of the ladies in the workplace. And one more thing, the glass ceiling is also created by the women themselves. We are obsessed by the ideas that we have to be perfect. We have to be good at everything, good at the job, good at the relationship with the employees, good at the family, have to be a good wife, have to be a good mother. So everything, we have to be a super person. And that creates the very heavy pressure on the women themselves. Sorry, I would just pass this on. And from our survey, we also found out that, the challenges for women, and this is the perception from both sides, men and women participating in our survey, is that, the challenge for women in the leadership role is, number one, is empowerment. Scott just had a kind of a deep explanation earlier on empowerment for women, right? If we want to implement the gender diversity in the companies, the perception of the promotion opportunities limitation is also another challenge for women. Lack of mentors and advisors for women, probably also because women somehow also need to have a lot of support mentally to overcome their challenges in work, in life, in order to be more successful in their role. Again, the pressure from work-life balance, and we often have the extreme ideas or opinions or definition about work-life balance. We have to be very equal for both components of life like that. And that created a lot of pressure for women, like I mentioned earlier. And the perception of women's role in the family. I just want to stop here a little bit just to share from my own bad experience. And this more or less like the advice for all the ladies in the room as well. You know, if you are looking forward to having a very perfect solutions for your work life, your family and work, and if you want to do it alone, and you want to do it by all means to prove that you are capable equally like men, the pressure would actually turning back on you a lot, and it would stop you to go even further. 18 years ago, or actually to be more exact, 19 years ago, yeah, I had that kind of problems. I was in such an ambition, you know, I had such an ambition, and I tried so much to really, really want to prove that I can be a very strong general director. Wow, 19 years ago, right? At that time, I was still young, right? But then because I did it too much, and I didn't ask for support. I didn't ask for help from my family, from my friends, from my colleagues, and I just tried to prove myself. And I went into a very bad sickness, almost killed me at that time. And if for those of you, if you have by chance read any some articles about my challenge, my personal life challenge at that time, I think that earlier this year or last year, there were a few articles about that, that I went over the lupus sickness. Then you would see how dangerous it is if you really want to earn your way up without the support system, right? Without any help. Don't underestimate the value of the people around you. And then you would need to really be more practical in finding your way up. Yeah. And with that, then we would, I just want to look at how we in Vietnam can starting the journey to the gender diversity and then also the empowerment for the women to grow up in the companies. Bearing in mind that for the companies and businesses, we all already know that there are a lot of benefits of having the gender diversity in your top management of the companies, where you can have more people-centric strategy that help growing up your business, but at the same time, retain your top talents and engage your team. So the key thing is that whether or not we should start thinking about this strategy, because at the moment, from our report, from our survey, we find that there are just like 50-50 opinions about, you know, the determination to implement gender diversity, because 50% of the companies want to commit, and around 50% would be I don't commit or I don't know, right? So first thing first, start changing ourselves. Think about that. Think about the policies, the strategy that we can put in place to nurture the women's development. Then, we would love to, well, I think we should focus on these 3 areas. Number 1, build a fair environment. You know, in assessment, giving the fair chance for women to prove themselves, to contribute, and then to grow up and have the opportunities to grab the leading positions. Well, I know that the reality is that we still, you know, women, we still have to work twice as hard, you know, than men in order to gain the recognition in the workplace. But if that is the reality, then let it be, right? Just try. Accept the difference. The tone from the top would be very important. If we accept that, we recognize diversity, we accept the differences, not just in opinions, in different approach to business, but also in gender, then it would be a more healthy environment for all of us. And then, last but not least, reinforce the culture of inclusion. Respect all of the differences in the companies, engage with each other, and create the sense of belongings to all of your members in the companies. That would help, not just, just helping women, but it's actually helping the whole organization. The company can do a lot of things, but we ourselves, men in the room, ladies in the rooms, I think that all of us will need to start changing from outside. We need to let go the unconscious bias. Don't think that this job can only be done by men, that job can only be done by women, Just open up. Don't think about any gender barriers. And then we can see the miracle happens when people can actually expose and use their strengths to do a lot of good things for our organizations. All right, but last but not least, female. Our own, it would has to become from our own self, right? Again, I promise to explain to you the title of my presentation, Leap, and the net will appear. Well, I don't urge you to just close your eyes and leap and wishing for a miracle happen, that some net would appear to catch you. No. This means that if you really want to move up, if you really want to become a leader, if you really want to contribute to the companies, using all of your strengths, just take the chance. Just work hard. Go up, become vocal. Contribute to your company's business. Contribute to your company's strategy. Show your strength. Don't wait for other people to nurture us. Don't wait for other people to create the training opportunities for us. Don't wait for others to recognize us. Earn their respect by our hard work, right? Just accept the fact that we have certain kind of unconscious bias still existing in the market, right? Still existing in this society. Just let it be. We cannot change it. We can only give the impact for the people to actually recognize that we do have that strength. And leap and the net will appear, meaning that please have the courage to take the challenge. Have the courage to take the challenging opportunities or challenging tasks to actually grow yourself. So with that, I would like to end my sharing of Navigos search report, and we would love to summarize in a very short clip here. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Phương Mai. So we just listened to a very insightful and inspiring presentation. And if you have any questions to our speaker during the previous presentations, please jot down so and interact during the panel discussion at the end of the event today. And now, before we go into the next part of our seminar, we would like to invite all of you to take a short break. So we will resume after 15 minutes. So it's about 10:40. So thank you so much, and see you in a few minutes.